Chapter 5. As Frances walked through the front door, Miss Hunter rushed to greet her. She grasped Frances's arms in her eagerness. "Oh, Miss Kelly, we badly need your help," she cried. "Where? What's happened?" Frances asked. Frances pulled away from Miss Hunter and reached up to remove the long hat pin that anchored her hat. No. It's nothing immediate. That is, it's immediate, but Frances waited impatiently for Miss Hunter to collect her thoughts. Finally, Miss Hunter said, "One of our agents, Mrs. Margaret Dolan, has become quite ill and is hospitalized." "Oh, I'm sorry. What would you like me to do?" Frances asked. Miss Hunter took a deep breath and let out quickly, her words tumbling with it. Mrs. Dolan was to escort a group of children to Missouri. Now, of course, she can't, and there's no one else available to take the children, but it's been advertised in 3 towns when they'd arrive. I know you're a teacher. You know how to deal with children. So could you possibly take your place and escort the children on their journey?" Her voice faded to a squeak as she managed to add, "Please, Miss Kelly." When were they scheduled to leave New York City? Miss Hunter clapped her hands to her face. "Tomorrow morning. I realized that if you take the job, it would rob you of your sightseeing day in New York." Frances suddenly realized that she had no further desire to sightsee in New York. Her happy memories were of another New York City at another time. She'd always have the memories, but it was time to come back to the present, to the future, which lay in Kansas. Miss Hunter took another breath, which brought her pink back to her cheeks. "There are 30 children. We'll pack some food for them, give you money to buy milk and bread and whatever else you'll need for the journey. We'll pay you to receive your trouble is the pay you'll receive for your trouble is not great, but it shouldn't meet your immediate needs." She didn't say please again, but her clasped hands and begging look in her eyes spoke for her. "I'll be glad to escort them," Frances said, and then she smiled at Mrs. Hunter. As she sighed, Miss Hunter sighed in relief. The ride back, traveling alone, would have been lonely. She didn't speak her thoughts, and it would have given me too much time to dwell on the argument I had with Johnny. "Oh, thank you, Miss Hunter said as she flared around Frances. "A cup of tea, that's what you need. Oh, we're having an early supper. Well, there's still time for tea, and we'll arrange for you to meet the children and get acquainted, of course, before supper. No, after supper." Frances took Miss Hunter's hand and led her to a bench just inside the door, the very bench she had perched on with Mike, Danny, Megan, Peg, and Pete. When they had arrived, and they waited for a kind, soft-spoken woman named Mrs. Mitten to be ready them for the trip west. "Sit with me for a minute," Frances said. "It'll help if I know a little about the children before I meet them." "Of course, but we'll need the list. I could never remember all their names without a list." Miss Hunter sailed into the nearest office and back again, waving 2 sheets of paper as she plopped down on the bench next to Frances. "Here's the railroad schedule of stops, some of them for water and fuel, and somewhere you can buy fresh milk and bread. Most have privies too. There'll be privies on the train as well. And here's a list of the children. It's alphabetical," she said. "See, first is Emily Jean Averill, who's 4, and her sister Harriet Jane Averill, who's 10. Oh, how that dear girl worries about our little sister. She won't allow her out of her sight. Goodness knows what might happen if they're separated." For a moment, Frances and Miss Hunter stared at each other silently. The rush of pain that came back at the memory of being separated from her brothers and sisters was almost too strong for Frances to bear. She took a deep breath and said, "Please go on, Miss Hunter. Who are the other children?" "There's 3 Babcotts," Miss Hunter said. "George Henry is 10, Earl Stanley 9. Their baby sister Nellie Elizabeth is 3. She shook her head. "They're quiet children. They keep to themselves. They're frightened and sorrowed for some reason. It's not the trip west, I'm sure. I've tried to learn more, but they won't open up to me. Maybe they will to you." She glanced at the list again. "There's Nicola Buschetti. She's a lovely child. Small for 11, but happy and healthy. I just hope she'll find a home with a family who'll appreciate her hijinks and not wish they'd chosen a quiet, obedient daughter instead." Miss Hunter sighed. "Now here's one I worry about. Belle Marie Dancing, 9 years old. Belle was a foundling left on a doorstep. She has no known parentage. She was brought up in orphanages. There's prejudice against foundlings, so it's so unfair." Frances felt a rush of tenderness toward this child. Had Belle ever felt a hug or known anyone's love? Miss Hunter quickly read from the next few names. Margaret DiCapo, 8. Lottie Duncan, 11. Walter Ray Emmerich, 5. Philip Emery, 4. They've recently come to the society, and I don't know them well. It seems that Reverend Brace told me there's some kind of problem with Lottie, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was." "A behavioral problem?" Frances asked. Miss Hunter's forehead puckered as she thought. Finally, she said, "I can't really recall. Isn't that dreadful of me to forget? Me, oh my, with all these children, their names and backgrounds to try to remember. It's a wonder my mind doesn't give out entirely." Frances smiled and patted Miss Hunter's hand. "You're doing an excellent job. Don't worry. I've taught children with all kinds of problems. Lottie, you'll be an interesting challenge." Miss Hunter smiled. "Good. Well, I can almost promise you won't have problems with the next few children. Frank Wilmer Fisher is 12, is a fine young man, eager to go west. Daisy Ann Gordon is already only 9, and she says she wants to be loved by parents more than anything in the world. Jack Greer is 7. His big brown eyes will melt your heart. Whoever gets Jack will be lucky." Her eyes followed her finger down the page. Miss Hunter said, "Now there's Lucy Amanda Griggs, a 10-year-old, waif from the streets. Landlord threw her out when her mother died. She's somewhat afraid of going west, but she's eager to have parents and a little sister. Well, and I interviewed her. All she could talk about was having a little sister. I hope she gets her wish, Frances said. I hope all of them do, Miss Hunter said. With a sigh, she perked up at the next name, Alexander Hannah. 8 years old, a real joy. And Virginia Hoopert, she's 10, Miss Hunter said. Virginia insists she's a princess and was switched from another child at birth. Does she remember her parents? Frances asked. How young was she when she was orphaned? She was a foundling, left on the steps of a hospital. Her date of birth and her mother's first name were printed on a scrap of paper pinned to her blanket. She was taken in by a foster family in New Jersey, then returned 4 years later when the foster mother died. Virginia has lived in the asylum ever since. Dear little girl, she needed a family in her past, so she created one for herself, Frances said. She created a family, all right, Miss Hunter said. If you ever... And you'll never talk her out of it. She insists she remembers names, places, everything. Again, her fingertip returned to the list, sliding down the line. David Paul Howard, 11. Very quiet boy, used to doing what others tell him to do. David lived off the streets until a slightly older friend brought him to us. He wanted David to have a real home, he said. She shook her head. It's amazing how David survived this long. Here are some other recent arrivals. Mary Beth Lansdow, 11. Jesse K. Lester, 9. Edward Paul Marsh, 11. Ah, he's a caution. Marcus John Mello, 12. Samuel Jacob Meyer, 10. Shane Howard Prescott, 11. Lizzie Ann Schultz, 2. Lizzie is a darling. You can assign her to one of the older girls to care for on the trip. Most agents pair the little ones with the older girls. It's a great help to have so many children to watch over. What about the children you just named? Any problems? Frances asked. I can't promise you there won't be problems. They're all old enough to get into trouble. Maybe some already have. Maybe some are going to. I don't know. You'll just have to keep a spot for any potential troublemakers and keep them in line. Frances nodded. She'd found that even a hug or a friendly pat on the shoulder was often enough to reassure a child who just needed to know that he or she was cared for. She wasn't worried about how the children would behave. She worried about how they would stand up to the terrifying ordeal of meeting strangers while wondering if they'd be chosen. She vividly remembered her own fears. Will Scott is 12, Miss Hunter said. He was brought to us by his father, who works for the traveling circus. Mr. Scott explained why he was unable to care for Will, but Will's in mourning for his father. He can't believe his father would send him away. Frances gulped back the tightness in her throat. She knew what Will must be feeling. Then there's Andrew Adams John Stow, 8. Harry James Stowe, 10. Miss Hunter said. The little one clings to her brother day and night. How they're going to be separated, I can't imagine. She looked at the list of names and said, the last two, now they may give you trouble. Agatha May Vaughn, who's 12, was banished from the orphanage where she's lived in for years. She's a born troublemaker. Wait till you meet her. Her name, her mind gets set on something, there's no budging her. I don't envy the people who take her in. Maybe if a little love, Frances began. Miss Hunter shook her head. You're very young, and love may seem to be an answer to everything. But with Aggie, she smiled. All I can say is, good luck. Frances reached for the list. Is that all? One more, Mrs. Hunter said. 7-year-old Caroline Jane Whitaker. Her father beat her. She's very much afraid of him. He disappeared 4 months ago after Caroline's mom died. The aunt who took Caroline in brought her to us because she can't afford to care for her. Caroline wants to go west to a new home, but she's frightened. Afraid she won't be chosen, or afraid of finding the right family, Frances said. Oh no, Miss Hunter said. She's afraid that her father will come looking for her. She's afraid that he'll find her.